And parametrical design leads us further to the new technology in manufacturing. And we will take a fast look in here as well. Of course, robotics, that is no wonder, it is there. What surprised me is that even traditional ways of building have been automated. And in Netherlands, it is the case that good bricklayers are quite scarce. The building is so demanding, and there is such an amount of work that robots are taking over the very traditional way of bricklaying. The only thing they can't do is the joints. So the joints have to be put in by the workers, as well as the materials is still brought by hand, like in old days. But basically, the new manufacturing robots are there. And the technology, which we call in short and not in a very exact way 3D printing, is a direct consequence of parametric design and digital manipulation and digital modeling. And to be more exact, 3D printing actually is a epistemologically different from all the building technologies so far. And 3D printing has been called additive manufacturing from the viewpoint that most of the use of material so far has been subtracting. So we have a solid block, we have a ready-made raw material. Out of that we subtract material and get the detail we need. But additive manufacturing is the entirely contrary to that. Additive manufacturing is where we add material in a very thin layers. What kind of binding force we need is different in different printer systems, but basically we add only the material that is needed. So already by definition, the additive manufacturing is much less material needing and more sustainable than the building processes so far. And the building processes so far are quite unsustainable in a way that there is a lot of waste material in the buildings due to the system of building, but also due to the lack of quality in organization or workforce. So additive manufacturing by definition should be more sustainable. But additive manufacturing also brings some extra qualities with it. Some of the objects that can be nowadays made are entirely impossible to do with subtracting technologies, where like these several layers of these hexagon balls actually cannot be made without breaking the surface. But here the surface spheres have not been broken. They are the same material without any extra needs to cut or to do anything with them. Which also brings us to the architectural world. Netherlands to build world's first habitable 3D printed houses. We can see 2018 was the image taken, and the reality check 2020 is coming in a minute. This is the 3D printing of concrete or concrete-like materials. As we can see, it's a painstaking process. It is rather complicated due to the possibilities of concrete. But here, before we go forward with the concrete, there is a citation. But we are already looking to take a step further, and people will be able to design their own homes and then print them out, which is coming. It is coming very soon. But now what I was talking about, that the author of the within the design-based discipline have disappeared. Now the technology um, uh, enables us really to leave the designer totally out of the system. So very soon we might be looking at wild jungle of totally new type of space that comes up as a crowd financed or as totally negotiated collective space, which is hard to believe how that can be negotiated. But we are looking at totally new processes in all the spheres of life. And here is the 2020 check on concrete. Yes, it is complicated because you have to control the temperature, have to control the process of solidification of the material, as well as all kinds of components in there. But it looks like 2020 is no problem. Here is already a new printer. The house is there, it has been printed. At the moment, the windows and roofs and other materials are still added to it, but basically any material can be printed. So we are very soon looking at quite complex house printing printers. I have been using the example of 3D canal house that was developed in Amsterdam, but that has gone out of business. And instead, here's quite a clear, rather simple looking printer of reasonable framework and software to make all that work. So the 3D printing of houses is coming with full speed. Here are some more materials from 2018 from Denmark, where complicated details of reinforced concrete were difficult to make in ordinary methods. Then they were printed. So it has started with smaller details, but now we have really ended up with the whole buildings. This is also a project I have looked for several years. It is also in Netherlands, and what makes it interesting is that they are printing metal. So metal printing is a new step if we look at different 3D printers, and this company has been trying to print a bridge. And yes, it is 2015, and some later images of that process, and now 2019, the bridge actually has been stress tested. Or you can see on the central image there, two sides of the bridge, and then the water filled containers on top of it to check the loads. I must say it is still quite massive, and probably ordinary manufacturing would have done it with more sustainable structures of steel or other metals. But nevertheless, this is the first one, and this 2019-2020 has to be recorded as a milestone for building and printing bridges. And the printing liquid metal, of course, brings us closer to the most, or the biggest industry in the world, which is of course the arms industry. It is without any competition the most money consuming industry all over the world. And here 2013 already first commercial 3D printed metal gun parts were available. And I have also checked it. The solid metal parts are possible with $200 and less 3D printers, which makes it already very feasible. It is also the case with military. It hasn't moved as fast as they believed at the beginning, but today manufacturing metal spare parts for arms industry is on its way, which is, as it says, revolutionizing logistics. That is true. And I was looking at this metal printing exactly because of the possibility of printing guns. But it appears to be that it is not really a problem of printing guns anymore, because the plastics have become so strong that in reality you really do not need to print the arms anymore in metal form. It easily can be done in plastic. And I was looking at this first plastic gun and this article where he said that George Block's release of plans for 3D printed guns, but this is not true. It is easy to find. There is one big file including all these revolvers and guns that have been designed for home use. Of course, it is not a problem for the countries where carrying or owning arms is allowed, but for a lot of countries, this is really, from the viewpoint of morality and the laws, a important check. What to do? What are we going to do with it? If anybody can with simple printers print a gun where it is forbidden. But it is also true that not always the optimization is cheap, and one has to be quite careful in saying that we will be printing all kinds of stuff. So this topological optimization is also very time consuming, and it is not achieved just as an automatic process. Someone has to do it, and that also costs money. But of course, if we have algorithms on the level of artificial intelligence, that is entirely new story. So there have been other 3D printing examples, like printing sand into glass, 2011, nothing came out of it. Printing salt, nothing came out of it. But then there was a rather famous hype of printing clothes. And I still think that will be one of the major industries in the future. But the 2020 check did not really give too much potential to it. This is 2015. Just imagine the potential. And this is the reality check 2020. Even the model is the same. So if the model hasn't changed in 5 years, I would argue that probably the clothing hasn't developed like the way we might have hoped. And it is my feeling that instead of 3D printed clothes, we are moving much faster in the smart clothes and digitally enhanced clothes than in the traditional additive technology produced garments. But surely it will come. All the accessories would come. There is no problem. They have come already. So that is here. 3D printed purses and other stuff. Yeah, salt, naturally harvested salt, but this hasn't really developed further on. Now we might. This was the short version of the new technologies that have been connected to the digital reality, at least to some extent, and the last one definitely have been catalyzed by the digital reality.